Okay, this is for a friend of mine who has some native bees and was just concerned about adding an extra box. So I've got my original hive here and then another box, and in between I have a clear pipe. So what you do is you have a hive and then you put the hose between, and what they'll do is they'll migrate through that. So the new entrance is now here, and this is a silicon gun end, so it works as a perfect entrance for bees. They absolutely love it. They get right up in there and they guard that entrance really well, and it's interchangeable, so you can take that out and put it on another box. So that one was originally here, and I took it off, put the hose through to the other one and put the new entrance there. And they take 3 or 4 days, and then they don't sort of understand what's going on at first, but after a while they start to migrate through. In about 10 weeks you'll get another hive built in there. Basically what you're waiting for is another queen to hatch, mature, and then what will happen is it will fly and then mate with one of the drones, and then it'll go back, become fertilized, and then lose its wings, and it will stay in the box for the rest of its life. Now, if you have a box attached to another box and only one entrance to the outside world at the front there, and no other way for the bees to get out, the problem you run into is if you get a bee, a queen bee, migrate into there and then out and mate. They mate in flight and then come back in and go to nest in here, but there's no way out for the other bees. They'll pass through, and then however they do, they'll get messages back to the other one and it will come down and kill that bee. So what you need to do is, after a period of time, let's say 6 weeks of having them connected, you need to just pull that out ever so slightly, that hose. The thickness of a bee's head is only a couple of millimeters, so you only really need the hose to be moved out of the entrance maximum of 5 millimeters, so half a centimeter, and that's just enough for them to guard that hole. And they will continue to go through until such time as a queen bee is in that point, in that box. And at that point, what will happen is, because there is an entrance here, and during that time bees will start to come out of this hole anyway because it's quicker for them. They're going through here and then out, and it's more expedient for them to come out of here if they're servicing this hive. But if they're servicing this hive in the meantime, they'll go through this hose. So you can see now that I've pulled this hose out ever so slightly, and if you watch it, you'll see bees flying out. There's one just come out and off it goes. There's another one, and there's a bee coming up the pipe. So you can see that this is all one unit, but at this point in time, the bees can go in there if they want to. Don't forget that the front of this box is the main entrance, so they will guard that box. This is their territory, but there is a slight little hole in there, and this happens in nature too. So when they're in a tree, there's more than one hole, and you'll find them coming in and out of a tree in 6, maybe up to 6 times. Now when you do this, so what will happen now is that the way I will know that this hive has a mated queen in it is 2 reasons. Firstly, there'll be a massive swarm out the front of the box for a period of days. Secondly, this clear tube will get blocked up. They'll block it for a fair period of space. You know, it may only be this much, but it may also be this whole amount here. And this is the reason why you need a clear tube over 1 foot long. If you don't have a clear tube and you've got a dark tube, you will not know when this has happened. So that's how you know that you have a mated queen in the box, if you don't have an observation window in the top. Once it's mated, they deem this area as a secondary hive to this hive, and they will block it up. So you can see you can also see the traffic too. It takes them a few days to get used to it, but they do get used to it. So at this point in time, I'm not concerned that a queen bee will get killed in there, because I've got an escape route for the bees in this hive. When they deem this one a threat, they will block the entrance. They won't want any bees coming into that hive at that point. And a sufficient amount of workers from this hive will end up living in this one and servicing it, because they have to fill it up with stores: honey, pollen, propolis, wax, and so forth. So keep the clear hose on, just pull it out, and what I do is I wire it to the box. So this has got a wire, and it's wired to the box so that when I pull it out, it's going to stay that distance and it won't move, because you get storms and wind and dogs and birds and what have you. So I don't have to touch this now. So all I did is I put a hose on it, a box on it, left it for 6 weeks, and now I've just pulled it off a little bit, and they'll continue to just service this, and I can just walk past every day, and once this is full up, I know that that hive has a queen in it. What will happen though is the day that you pull the hose out slightly, another thing you can do is just cut a hole in your hose, like a circular hole, and cover it with tape. And then at a period of time when you feel necessary to do it, you can open it up, and that'll still be their exit and entrance, secondary to the first one, and then they'll block from that point down when they feel the need to. But when you do pull a hose out a little bit, because you've disrupted their flow, they will swarm outside of the box. Now I'm going to show you something. Because I popped that yesterday, I expected this to happen, and it has happened. So if you look there now, I've got a little swarm of bees outside of this box, and they're protecting that box. They're making sure nothing's happening to it, because their equilibrium's been affected. So they have drones out there protecting. There's probably 300 bees just sitting there. So don't be concerned about that when you see it, because it will happen. And you might find a couple of little dead bees on the ground. That's just their protection. They're protecting themselves. And this is another box I've done. The original box is under there. The new one's at the top. It's got the hose connecting it. So what I do is I cover the original one with a cloth, and there's only one entrance. So this happened yesterday. I won't see any activity out of this for at least 3 days. Weather permitting, at least 3 days. It could be more, could be less, but in my experience, at least 3 days. I cover this so that they don't see the original box when they're coming back, and they only go to this, because what they'll do is if they see the original box, they'll try and chew their way in, and if you have a weak point, they'll start going in and out of there. And these bees will do that. They'll make their own entrances and whatever. Some of them have got, you know, up to 4 or 5 entrances on. My little doggie's just got a bee on her. Come here. Come here. There we go. Got it off. So yeah, and here's another example of what goes on. So this was a hive that I've had for a very long time, and I bought this as an existing colony a few years ago now, and it had been in this box for over 5 years, so it's very strong. And it came under attack a few weeks ago. There was a massive swarm of bees out here, thousands of bees, and what they did is they decided that this hive, for whatever reason, may have been a little weak, may have had a strong pheromone from the queen, but they attacked and they pretty much killed all of the protecting bees. And if you look down here at the entrance, that's all bees, all dead bees. There's probably, you know, thousands of dead bees there. And it doesn't matter because this hive will be extremely strong now, because from what I can see that I've researched, bees from up to 6 hives will come in and populate this hive now, and it'll become extremely strong. And what I've done since then is I put another box underneath, and I used a thicker hose this time just as a bit of an experiment to see if I could speed up the flow between the two, because in the other ones it's very constricted, and that's the whole idea of it. You constrict the flow so that they are forced to unlay some of their burden, as in wax or pollen, on the first box on their way through to there, and eventually the scent will be that strong in there that they just start doing it. So I used a thicker hose, and it seems to be very good because the flow of bees is very strong. It's very quick, but also you have to take into consideration the fact that this hive has just come under attack and it's being repopulated, so they're extremely aggressive right now. And what they're doing is they're flying from, it's hard for me to show, but they're doing lappies. So there's a colony of bees that are protecting the entrance and the rear of this hive right now, and they're starting from here and they're swinging around. You'll just see them, they're turning around here, they're going all the way down there towards where the other hive is and then back again. And they've been doing this for about 2 weeks now. There's probably 3,000 bees in the air, so you might see it a bit better there. They're just continually circling, so they're protecting this area. And that's the new entrance to this hive down here. I know you can't see it very well, but there they are. So that was an empty box I have, same as your original. And they'll clean that out and they'll fix it up. And then once again, this hose actually already has a hole in it, just here. And they've blocked that up at the moment. But when they decide that that they've got a queen in there as well, they will block this all the way. And then what I'll do is I'll just pull the hose away one night, tape up this hole, and just move it slightly forward. I won't move it far, because you have to take into consideration that the bees are still one colony but separating, and the worker bees from this one will be drawing pollen and stores back to this one, but also transgressing into this one. So if you move that too far away in the early stages, you run the risk of taking away the brand new nucleus hive's ability to build up stores. So you have to understand that there's a little queen in there with not many workers, so you leave it very close. And I would like to show you one that I've just pulled away, but unfortunately I wired it up yesterday. But this one here was part of this log hive, and I haven't moved it. It's been separated for over a month and a half now, but you can see, yeah, my camera's not picking it up, but bees are coming and going, and they're part of that original hive. So I leave it there because they will help each other out. And then this is a massive cluster of eggs in it, and I'm really proud of this one. So that was the technique that I used. I just had a hose here and it went up to this one, and they were forced to go through, and then after a period of time the hose actually fell out by itself, and I didn't notice, and it was actually a fluke that I realized that that's the best way to do it. Just pull it out and they'll block it up as they go. And just to prove my point once again, that it's best off to have a clear hose and just pull it apart separately. Here's one I did about 4 weeks ago. So this was a hive, and then I made this one out of a hollow Bresser brick, very quick, and I put a hose between the two. And I'll just show you how much action there is. You can't even see in there at the moment. It's just loaded. It's loaded. There's probably a kilo of stuff in there. So very active. And what I did just a few days ago is I pulled that apart. So this hose is actually apart from this box now, and you can see these bees are guarding this entrance, but they're also flying in and out. And if you watch long enough along this hose, you will see, there's one, you can see the little shadows. That's all you're looking for, the little shadows going in and out. Now, there's no reason for those bees out of this hive to go through this one because they have an entrance here, but they do because they're used to doing it. And this is the entrance here, and look at all the activity. You can see the activity there. So what will happen is, and it won't be too long from now, they'll block this hose off, and this will be 2 separate hives, and that's a matter of 12-14 weeks. And I'll just move this one away a little bit. I won't move it too far. One night, in the middle of the night, I'll probably move it 6 inches, then maybe another 6, and I'll probably just bring it to here, and it'll stay there for 3 or 4 months until, you know, start of winter. And it'll be good then, because I know that it's fully stored up. But this is an extremely virulent hive, this one. That's what that bee's carrying out, that little brown stuff. That's an egg shell, essentially, to cover. So this is fully active, this hive. But yeah, that's what you do. You just pull it out a little bit. This hose was all the way in, and then I just pulled it out. And there's about probably not even a centimetre there. They guard the hole, but they also go through here. And this is absolutely chockers with stuff now already, and they're still using that. So that's why it's important to use a clear hose, because you get the idea of when it's been blocked up. If you have a black hose, you have no idea, and then you run the risk of getting a queen in there, but then it also getting killed. So that's why I use the clear hose. Anyway, thank you, mate.